say money makes the world go round. I say ships move the money that make the world move.
Who navigates those large international ships?
How often are international ships required to be surveyed and inspected?
Maritime also protects our seas and borders by way of our local Bahamas Defense
It is
Force.
very sad to say that out of 1,500 plus ships that are registered under the Bahamian flag, only a very small amount of Bahamians are employed.
Maritime Matters.
Good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome one, welcome all. Welcome to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. Tonight, we're going to delve into some topics that are hitting the news left, right, and center. Maritime topics, local excursion operators. They're saying that the tax foreign charters more. In other words, those foreign charter yachts that come into the Bahamas to do charters, they are not Bahamian owned, they are not locally registered. So our people are saying, Mr. Government, you want to get more money out of them. You're getting VAT from us, which is already 10%. Those people shouldn't even be here because they're supposed to be making money in our country. But now since they're here, you've made provisions for them to be here. We just want to know you're getting more money out of them. Now, the flip side of this is we were hearing from some of the Marina Association people that government going up too high on these same foreign charter yachts. But tonight we're going to go into it a bit. And of course, you guys can feel free to call in at any time. The show is rolling on. The lines are free. You can call in now. No, we ain't gonna call in yet. We can call in after the first half hour. I gotta get some of the stuff out, and then we can allow you to call in, and we will be responding to your calls. So, the Bahamian excursion operators yesterday said this nation should ban foreign yacht charters on vessels below a certain length, as well as requiring the sector to pay business license and work permit fees. I have something to say about the business license part and the work permit fees, but we can get into that a little later. Another thing we're going to cover, another hot topic, is the Mariners Association. See, we was talking about the excursion operators just now. So we're talking about the people who take people out on excursions on their boat, right? And of course, they're in competition with the foreign yacht charters. So they're saying the government need to get more money out of those foreign yacht charters, and I agree with them. But this part with business license and permit fees, we need to talk about that some more, because I don't know if they quite understand how all of this is supposed to fit together to get a win-win. Because that's basically what we get. We just need to collect our money, right? We got some slack entities in government who just ain't collecting the money, and then they resort to getting a private entity to collect the money because they saying the government people ain't doing it. What nonsense, what foolishness. We're not gonna have it. We're not gonna accept that. Let the port department who's responsible for collecting this money start collecting this money and start putting pressure on these foreign yacht charter people. And well, I mean, the fee going up to what, 14%? Come on, man, that's 14% of every charter. That's good money to collect. Hey, millions of dollars a year. And yes, no, he wasn't collecting it, but somebody else was collecting it. I could tell you that. Somebody else was collecting that because the owners were paying it, but it just wasn't reaching the treasury. Now, why you even get a foreign entity to collect that so that it can reach the treasury, and you already have a entity in government legislated to collect that and make sure it reaches the treasury? You know, the buck stops with the minister. And if the minister is aware of this, there's a board that runs the port department, the Port Authority, New Providence Port Authority Board. The minister is responsible, is supposed to know how these ducks supposed to line up so that these funds can be collected. No more sorry excuses, but oh, you know, the government people that slack. No, they won't be slack. They slack because we allow them to be slack. So let's get that organized. So I agree. Tax the foreign yacht charters more, and now that it's 14%, I would say let's go to 20 or 25%. Because elsewhere in the world, like in Europe, they tax in 20 and 22%. Their waters ain't as good as ours. They don't have nice keys and all. Some of y'all may have heard about the land and sea park in Exomas, eh? But let me tell you something. I've been there many, many times. I remember one time I was working on when yacht. We were going in there weekly. The Carpe Diem. We were going in there every week with a bunch of German, a group of German tourists just coming in to explore that land and sea park. And it's breathtaking. It's mind-blowing. And I don't care what nobody tell me. There are no prettier waters in the world than Exuma land and sea park. But of course, when you talk about the Bimini chain now, the Bimini chain waters, we could say just as pretty, right? Just as tranquil. Just as pretty. And of course, Abaco got some pretty waters. We got pretty waters all over the place in this country. All over the place. You don't want to go to those far out islands like Auckland and Crooked Island and just look at the waters. You go on the bay and you look at the water and you will be so impressed. But anyway, I agree with you. We got to carry it up. But let's talk a little bit more about that business license and work permit. Because if you understand how that's supposed to work, then I think you will agree that you can't be doing all of that. Because now you don't want them to be in full competition with you. And I don't want that. So let's just keep it as it is and know where the lines are drawn and what the reasons are for those lines being drawn. Now, the Mariners Association, these are people who run marinas and own marinas and whatnot. Because, you know, very recently the government went up on the, I wouldn't say tax on the fees. Well, what's the difference, eh? But government went up on fees where government is now going to get piece of the pie. Government say we want at least say $2 or $1 something per foot, per vessel, anytime they use your marina. Because they're in the Bahamas and they trailing through our waters. They leave a little oil sheen every here and there. They impact in the environment when they run those engines. Of course, our local boats do that too. But our local boats supposed to be young. So if they coming in here and then they're gonna be leaving some residues and stuff, yeah, they can leave some money. We know that. But let's have them spend some, you know, own these mega yachts. Rich and famous, these people ain't feeling no weight. Some of them use them as tax write-off. So when the marina is going to charge them the $2 or $3 a foot, government say put $1 in there for us too. So instead of charging them $3, charge them $4. So why would they have a problem with that? That ain't coming to their pocket. And I could guarantee you yachts are going to continue to come to the Bahamas. So, Mr. Government, I bet you on that, right? It says here the Association of Bahamas Marinas, ABM, is carrying out an impact analysis of the boating, yachting, and marina industry in order to provide data that will be the public and private sectors improve policy and planning. The ABM Executive Director Basil Smith said in a statement, so this is what Mr. Smith saying they want to do, eh? They could do a feasibility, right? Impact analysis of boating, I assume that's local and visiting yachts, to see where we can go with this plan, the policy plan, in getting things organized, eh? So, we move on now to RCI, Royal Caribbean International. Now we know that hot in the news these days, eh? Because Royal Caribbean, they're the ones that want to put that beach club or clubhouse, whatever we want to call it, on the western side of Paradise Island, just east of that nice lighthouse we get out there, eh? Because we know Mr. Toby Smith have already acquired a couple of acreage around the lighthouse to the extreme east, the extreme west of Paradise Island. And RCI got the government to agree to lease them some land, long-term lease. Ain't nobody want to invest in no short-term lease. That's big money they're going to put there. $120 million worth of investment on about 5 acres or 7 acres or whatever it is we can find out. But it's still a little bit dispute between the RCI property and Mr. Toby Smith lease. The two leases seem to overlap a bit. So RCI wants that cleared up. I'm sure Mr. Smith wants that cleared up. And what RCI, you see, RCI bought the piece where some of those homes were. I assume they bought the people homes because they were very dilapidated, some of them, and then they started to be eyesores. Those who came in on cruise ships would see them and be like, well, what's going on over here? Because I could tell you, years back, they were very lovely to see coming into Prince George Wharf on a cruise ship. I think they had the eye doctor and they had another doctor. They had some really wealthy people that kept, but you know, after time moved on, the places got kind of dilapidated. And so Royal Caribbean bought them out, and that whole area now is where they're going to put their beach house. So they're saying, this RCI now, say they're going to spend close to $50 million to remove the derelict, collapsing and decaying former private homes from the property they hope to run into their Royal Beach Club in the next 2 years. So, Mr. The product innovative officer Jay Snyder, that's what he basically told the Guardian that they're about to do, eh? So it's going to cost them, if the project is 120 million, and it's going to cost them 50 million, that's almost half what they're spending for the project. See, sometimes when people say it's now, I don't know if they included that in saying this is what the project is going to cost us, because I've never seen this part before where they're going to pay to remove. Well, of course they gotta break down and what we call it when you're moving, you break down something and move it out of the way so you can do fresh buildings. I can't remember the word. Boy, when in the studios, can't remember much things. But anyway, they're gonna move them out, and it's gonna cost them some $50 million to dismantle and move those homes. They big homes, you know. They got pools. They got, so well, of course they have to regrade the land and do all the rest of that stuff. They say they can do with all the fauna, as far as getting new trees and plants and that type of thing, that can go along well with the project and with our environment. And all this is part of the environmental impact assessment too, which we got to talk about soon, right? So we have a statement from them saying that they're basically going to spend 50 million just to remove those former private homes, those which are dilapidated. I think that's a better term. I would use dilapidated, eh? And the RCI last week, and they said they would do it. I think last week Thursday they say, in the last show we said that RCI claims that they're gonna publish a report, because they had a town hall meeting where they published a report and they answered all of the environmental concerns that came to them. And of course, we know the people that were doing those. You had some local environmentalists asking a bunch of questions pertaining to the environmental impact assessment and that type of thing. We also had Atlantis was the big one. Atlantis ain't letting that go. Atlantis is saying, we want to know what about this, what about that, and what about the next. Right? So RCI answered the questions, and they came in a forum, and they basically say, look, let me know if you're all satisfied, or is there anything else we need to address. They had an 89-page public consultation report, and they released that on Friday. So once again, they defended the environmental footprint, vowing to uphold the 6 key environmental commitments in the development and operation of their beach house, or beach club. So I told you all, well, dear listener, please, I told you that RCI is the second largest cruise ship company in the world, and they got 6 of the largest cruise ships. They got ships over 220,000 gross tons, 6 of them, and building another one now. The Icon, I think is the name, Icon of the Seas. But you can imagine each one of those ships, those 6 I'm talking about, value what Atlantis cost. Atlantis was $3 billion. Each one of those ships are over $3 billion to build. And they have another 40, 50 ships. Well, maybe not that high, maybe 30, 40. But I know they got plenty more ships outside of those big 6. Those are the biggest, largest cruise ships in the world, Oasis class ships. Right? So we're talking about RCI being questioned about pollution prevention and environmental impact. Carnival is the largest cruise ship company in the world. And I can tell you, Carnival, RCI or RCCL, NCL, which is Norwegian Cruise Lines, and Disney is up there too. They are more ships and they are more safety and pollution prevention inclined, environmentally sound than any regular land operating company. I can tell you that Atlantis is a joke when it comes to pollution prevention measures in an environmental area. Right? Safety matters. Atlantis doesn't have a clue about safety on board a cruise ship. Mind you, they know about safety in hotels. But safety takes different levels. And on ships where there are passengers, that is the ultimate safety measures and precautions in the world. Because you got to remember, those ships out to sea, they can't call for help. They got to do everything on there. They got to be their own firefighters. They got to be their own BEC. They got to be their own crowd control. They got to be they got to do it on board those ships like every other ship in the world. But they got to do it with passengers too. Excuse me. And one of those ships probably carry more passengers than Atlantis could hold rooms. They carry over 6,000 people. Each one of those 6 I'm talking about. Over 6,000 passengers and then another 2,000 crew. So you're talking somewhere in the range of 8,000 people on one ship. And they got to make sure everybody is safe. They got to make sure that ship is not polluting the environment, the seas, the oceans. And they do this based on regulations, international regulations from the IMO, which is one of the ambits of the United Nations. And I can tell you details because I used to inspect those ships. My job for 3 years was a port state inspector. I inspected those ships. I went on cruise ship after cruise ship. I went on tanker after tanker. I went on container ships. I went on bulk carriers. You name it. I was going on them to inspect. And I know what I going to do. I inspect the documents. I walk around and I inspect certain areas. But what am I inspecting for? Safety, the big one. And pollution prevention, number 2. Those are the primary focus of the IMO when it comes to ships at sea. Anyway, we don't want to delve too deep into why RCI would know better than most how to ensure that there is prevention of pollution from that project. Because that project is smaller than one of the ships, less people than one of the ships. They do this all the time. They ain't need nobody to help them with this. So anybody who's gonna, I don't want to call it foolish, because sometimes people just don't know, but who's gonna be naive enough to challenge RCI or Carnival or NCL or Disney or any one of them on pollution prevention of a particular area near the sea? Please don't waste your time, because that's what you could be doing. You could be wasting your time. Safety is another one, but of course, I don't think there's no question about safety. So, RCI have that 89-page document answering everything that came to them. The footprint, the this, the that. And then RCI also have a competitor, right? When they finish this beach club, they got other people where tourists, other places where tourists want to go. All the tourists ain't want to go. Well, first of all, I think RCI will be offering that to the people on board their ship. I don't think the Carnival ships and the NCL ships and the Disney ships will be advertising that beach club on board their ships. Not saying they don't want their people to utilize it, and I'm sure it's not going to be closed to anybody. As a matter of fact, if you and me want to go over there and spend $15, $20 for one drink, we can do it. That's the prettiest beach in the world. Most people have not seen that beach on the north side of Paradise. But let me tell you where that is. You heard about the place called Club Med. We know what Club Med do, eh? They got the topless beaches and the this and the that, and they having fun. And well, Club Med Beach is where this club going. It's right stretching along from Club Med Beach. And I can tell you, I've been over there time and time again, that is one beautiful beach. So they know exactly why they want to be there. And when they're there, they're going to have the difference between there and some of the other competition, right? Because you may not know, some of you do know, that Atlantis, all of the hotels, they offer day passes, right? Atlantis and Cable Beach, and I don't know why I still remember Bahama and Bahama and Atlantis, they offer day passes where you can come in as a guest. You don't have a room, but you can enjoy all the amenities. It costs you about what, $150, $200? But you live in like, you in that hotel, you on the beach, lay off in your chair, you ordering drinks, you doing this, you doing you just like you're part of that hotel for a day. Well, of course, when night come, you still could be there, but you ain't got a room to go to away. And they're making money off this from those cruise ships, big, huge bucks. You think Atlantis will lose their money? I don't think so. But again, on a given day, we would have on average 10 to 15,000 passengers. According to RCI, this one is going to hold about 3,500 max. So if you have 15,000 and you only need 3,000, you still have 12,000. That's going to still be going to Atlantis for day passes and why Atlantis is the main one, because everybody knows Atlantis got far more water amenities than Bahamas, eh? Atlantis was designed to attract people to use their water facilities, and I would dare say they got a better beach. Cabbage Beach is in my opinion far better than the beach at Cable Beach where the Bahama property is. It's much bigger, much longer, and the sand is a little softer, and so they're more attractive, and plus they're closer to Prince George Wharf. They got ferry boats running from Porter's Key to Prince George Wharf to do what? To take passengers to Atlantis, and all of them don't do the day pass. They try to sneak through and go on the beach. But of course, Atlantis get playing security. They ain't playing that. You ain't gonna do that easy. So Atlantis is still going to be benefiting heavily. But I think they kind of concerned about those passengers being cordoned directly from ships away from them. And I don't blame them. You need to have your concern, then you have your concern. Disney is doing a similar thing in Eleuthera at their lighthouse point. Right? They're going to channel their people there. Carnival. You think when Carnival built that port in Sharp Rock at Freeport, they're not going to be trying to facilitate their people ashore? They got nice beaches in the area, but they're going to put nice infrastructure in place to try and when the people come off the ship, they still want to spend money, because they don't always want to be on the ship to spend money, eh? You got your little ice cream parlor, this, all those things basically you see in the Newport. Carnival can do just about all of that in their new port, because remember now, that port is well away from anywhere. I mean, there's no houses around it. There's no buildings. I see we passed over that. I went in the plane and we passed over that last week to Freeport. The plane crossed over it because I guess they had to make an approach from east to west. And I didn't really remember. I said, this got to be the carnival site. And then when I checked, I realized it was on the highway. Then I saw the old UB building that got shattered in the hurricane. And I was like, oh yes, that's where it is. Okay, that's Sharp Rock. And it's a nice spread. But they have to make a new road to get to it because it's pretty far off from the highway. And there's nobody living in that area. So this is the time, like I said in a previous show, when people could start trying to source land in that area. Try to build as simple as a sports bar, right? I don't know what the situation, but I'm sure Carnival and the government is liaising as to what the straw weeks are going to be like. And again, you got all the jet ski operators. Because you're talking about Carnival ships carrying 5,000 and 6,000 passengers. I think they could hold up to 2 at any one time. So sometimes you have more than 10,000 people there on those ships, and if half come off, that's 5,000 people. You could make money off jet skis, you could make money off parasailing, you could make money off non-motorized equipment. And what we got to be careful of in this country is to ensure that Carnival doesn't try to offer any of those from a Carnival ownership perspective. Those things are going to be happening in this country. Those things have to be owned and operated by Bahamians. And I said that because I would have mentioned a couple times in the past too, that when you go to Coco Key, or when you go to Great Stirrup Key, or Castaway Key, or Half Moon Key, these keys that these cruise ships own, they got stacks and stacks of non-motorized equipment that they rent out. And I want nobody coming to me talking about, oh, that's part of the package. They don't really rent them. People go on them if they want to use them. No. They should not have license to operate those in our country. They should be operated by local Bahamians just like it happens in Nassau. They're not going to do it at Atlantis. Atlantis can't just buy a bunch of non-motorized water sport equipment and say, we can rent these out on the sea. Mind you, they could do it in the lagoon, inside the property, but not beyond the high water mark. Anything happening out there, quite technically, should be for Bahamian retailers. And that is to be coordinated and cooperated with the port department who issues licenses to people to do those things. And then not just that, you also want to make sure that the port department gets in bed with the hotel or the facility owner and operator. When I used to be deputy port controller, I had meetings on top of meetings at Atlantis, meetings on top of meetings at well, it wasn't Bahamas, and it was what you call it, the casino, not Cable Beach Casino. Well, Cable Beach Hotel was one, and the other one was some of y'all old people, y'all could remember. I can't remember, but the Cable Beach, it was a Cable Beach Hotel, and it was what, Carnival something, the casino. So I had meetings on top of meetings with those. Okay, so now we move on to. Before we move on to our topics, I see some lines blinking here. I think we got 1 or 2 callers, and this show is going to move with callers tonight. We ain't got no direct, strict agenda. So, y'all let's roll with me. And the number to call, if you're trying to reach the show, is 326-8255. That's 326-8255. So, feel free to call. Let's get this first call on the line. Caller, good night to you. You have reached Maritime Matters.
Good evening, Captain Bain. This is Captain Bain.
My good friend and comrade, Captain Herbert Bryn. How are you, my brother?
I am wonderful. I am in top shape. Now, I normally agree with you on most things, right?
Yes, sir.
But tonight, the only thing I agree with you on so far, a couple things. Right? I
Oh,
agree with
thank you.
on
You had me scared there.
the Cocoa Key, Great Stirrup Key, and the cruise lines purchasing equipment, and sometimes they allow Bahamians to front for them, and they get the lion's share of the profits. We know that's happening, right?
Well, I don't know, but I assume.
Well, yes, that's happening because we've been around the industry long enough, and I've spoken with persons who were in bed with the cruise line in that regard. So we know that's happening, right?
Yes, sir.
But I think you're missing the mark when it comes to this whole business of creating a destination within a destination. The port of Nassau is the destination. And to be honest, I feel as though I think my government would have erred in the whole business of allowing the port in this particular destination to create another destination, right, where they will be taking the vast majority of the profits out of the country. I think a better situation would have been if you want to develop something, you improve the destination, you improve the passenger experience, develop the east end of Bay Street and create something down there, create some things on the land, right? I think the whole business of the environment, I don't think that's the real issue, because like you say, and I am acutely aware, because I too, I'm a ship inspector, but the thing is, the cruise ships are very good with environmental stuff, although from time to time they have been exposed, and recent court case rulings in Miami and other places prove that where they would have had to pay out millions of dollars. We have had several spills in Nassau and a couple illegal pumpings and several illegal pumpings, but our laws are so antiquated when it comes to that, that really and truly it wasn't really worth our while to go after them. But the big picture here, in my opinion, right, is that we want as much of those passengers to come off the ship as possible, and not to go jump in a little tender and go 30 seconds across the way, when we know that when they would have gone to that key, they're going to spend all day, they're drunk when they finish, they're not going to experience the Montague Beach that is now blossoming with tourists on a regular basis, the Junkanoo Beach, the straw market benefit, because as those people walk down Bay Street, they might pick up a T-shirt here and there, the jewelry stores, they might see something they like. The scooter rental industry, and those quartz keys, that's a big thing that people come off. Horse and buggy rides is now becoming quite attractive again, because I see them every time I drive down Bay Street. Ferry boats who take these people, say, and that's their biggest and only client they take passengers too. So when you now have all these passengers going Porter's Dock, going across from the ship right across the way to this island, that's going to invariably look very attractive and appealing to especially from the ship. You know, I don't care if there's 1,000 go there. You're now taken away from the destination of Nassau, and so I think we would have erred in allowing that to happen, because I think a better remedy, a better option is go create something in the Family Islands. Let's develop those outer islands and create some experiences out there. Those are keys that probably will never get developed. Go develop those things and whatnot, right? They can't take it with them when they go, but go develop them. And so I think the conversation is being skewed relative to the environmental impact, because I do agree with you that there will probably be minimal impact per se, although there will probably be some, right? But I think the bigger conversation is the destination within a destination.
Okay.
That's my 5 cents.
My brother, I thank you so much for that contribution. You always make good contribution. But if you could hold a line while I respond briefly, and I will start out by responding to this destination within a destination. I want to know, see, I've been at this a little while longer than you because I'm a little older than you, right? And I think I've been in the harbor before you, although you used to go there with little. I thought as far as being responsible for doing things with the harbor. So let me just ask you if you are aware of the many years, the many decades that passengers were getting packaged to come off the ship and go directly to Athol Island. And when I say directly to Athol Island, food comes off the ship and goes directly to Athol Island. Cooks come off the ship and goes to facilitate those passengers on Athol Island. Are you aware of that? Are you aware that Rose Island had people coming directly from the ship and doing a day away at Rose Island? Are you aware that Pearl Island have this going on now for years? I mean, these are all destinations within destinations that I have never heard Atlantis or anybody complain about.
No. I'm aware that Pearl Island.
So why are you saying that we should not have a destination within a destination? We have all this going on now for decades.
No, but you better remember. You better remember now. Pearl Island. I consider Pearl Island, Rose Island, and all those places. They're not within the heart of the city of Nassau.
They're within the port of Nassau. When the cruise ship come here, people come directly off those ships, bypass downtown, and go straight to those islands. And I know you know that.
Pearl Island was just like how you have, it was a private entity. They had a contract with the cruise lines, and people would go on while on board, book tours.
Yes, but they are all destinations within this destination that you spoke about.
That did not compete in the way that this project going to
compete with who? Compete with who? Compete with downtown? Because Pearl Island people don't go downtown. Compete with who?
That is the Pearl Island never competed with the city of Nassau and downtown and the activities here.
Of course they competed because the people didn't the people come off the ship and go directly to Pearl Island?
No, that was considered a tour. Just got people.
Yes, but tours are bypassing Nassau.
No, listen. Just got people to sign up on board to go to say Stuart Cove to do diving or go to a Industrial Garden. That was considered a tour.
Yes, but Stuart Cove doing diving all day is not a tour. That's a destination within this destination that they go to spend the day.
A tour. I mean,
no, they go to spend the day.
That's not creating a facility outside of the city of Nassau where the cruise ships now will rake in every penny that is made on that on Paradise Island, and they invariably going to try to make sure that as much of their passengers as possible go from the ship to that particular destination.
So, what do you call Blue Lagoon? What do you call Blue Lagoon Island, Captain Bain? Is that a destination?
If Blue Lagoon Island is a tour, that's the.
I'd like to be a tour. So if that's a tour, then this thing.
That's not in the city of now. That's not. We're not sitting back and watching the tour. The tourists are once the tourists sign up for that tour, they sign up for that tour. That's fine. No?
And they go and they do the tour and they bypass Nassau because the vessel, the Calypso boats which used to come and pick them up, carry 400 of them one time, used to go straight from Prince George. And guess what?
But they're not taking them to a destination owned by the same cruise line.
It doesn't matter who owned the destination. It is still a destination within a destination. See, now you're trying to get, but who owned the destination?
Oh, that's a tour within this destination.
Yeah, but if the cruise line want to invest $100 million to take people a percentage of the people, I wish all the cruise ships will do that. Because now we got Bahamians working in those places. We got to be making money in those places. All of that helps our destination.
When the cruise
gives people more things to do.
But Captain Dan, when the cruise line invests $120 million, right? They would have already did their ROI, their return on investment. They say, well, okay, I'm going to invest $120 million in the space of 5 years. I'm going to make $500 million. So did
Bahamas, so did Atlantis, and so did all those other foreign entities. With that one in the southern Nassau name with the Gulf Coast. Or if when you doing your projection to invest, of course you're looking for your returns. And what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that?
We are taking away from monies that will ordinarily be spent in the city of...
No, sir. These people staying on board the ship. They ain't coming off to spend no money. If some of them, do you know that we have a lot of repeat guests come to this country?
The folks who come to a destination like Nassau, which is a very popular destination on the cruise ship itinerary, the vast majority of them, unless they are folks who just don't want to come up to it, the vast majority of them want to at least see Nassau or walk down.
Yeah, but there'll be a lot of them don't want to even see Nassau. They don't want to be around. They want to go in a place like Atlantis. That's why Atlantis is making so much money off these 1 day visits from cruise ship passengers. I got another call on the line. You want to hold or you want to call back?
Go ahead, I'll call back. Go ahead.
All right, sir. Calling you live on Maritime Matters. Thank you very much for calling.
Hi, good night, Mr. Ben. How you doing?
Good night, Miss John. Miss Johnson, you let me down, man. On 2 weeks past and I hear your beautiful voice. What's going on?
This ain't Miss Johnson. This is Hepburn this time.
Oh, this is my guest extraordinaire from last week.
Yeah.
Oh, Anthea, my darling, how are you? And I'm so glad you called because you work on the cruise ship and you could weigh in on this.
Yes, I can. Let me tell you, to the caller, I just want to iterate that especially with the environmental thing, that is 100% go. There's always something. Even me who work in the jewelry store have a part to play in
environmental protection and safety. That's right.
Okay.
Yes.
And then for the part of saying about a destination within a destination, I don't agree with that because I've traveled the world over, and even as a crew member, I want to go see somewhere else. And the ship does not direct people to where they want to go. You know, you have a choice as to where you want to go, what you want to do. The ship does not tell you, okay, you have to go to my island or because I do this unless that is the only destination. For example, Princess Keys. When you go to Princess Keys, there are things to do on Princess Keys that doesn't involve the ship at all. And the locals on Princess Keys they rent their jet skis and what have you, and that's all done by locals.
Well, I know I went on a Mediterranean cruise and there was this place named Pompeii. This was someplace off Spain somewhere, right?
Yes.
And Pompeii was all day.
It's an all-day event.
Yeah, so that's a destination within the destination. But worldwide, you have to have these things to attract some of the people to get off the ship.
Yes, because I'll tell you what. In some ports that I've been in the past, in my last contract, there are people who, because they've been to the port before, there's nothing extra that they wanted to see. So guess what they did? They stay on board, do their crochet, play their cards, whatever, and they even get on board. So it's not the ship that's doing it, it's the individual itself. Because if I want to get off board and go someplace different, that's what I'm going to do, regardless of how much it costs or where it is, but I want to do something different. And if I'm going to a port, let's say, more than one time, each time I'm going to go and see somewhere different.
So when you go to a port and you see the itinerary list of the excursions and things you can do in that port. A port that has 10 different things compared to a port that have 3 different things. Is that going to be is more people going to come off the ship when they have more things to do?
Not necessarily. Again, it's a desire. It's what is being offered. There are some ports that offer more things than others, and then there's some ports that don't have the same thing as another port. So, for example, like here in here in Freeport, there are certain things that you can do here that you cannot be able to do in Nassau.
Oh, but right? Freeport is the deadest port in the world. I don't think there's much to do in Freeport. Doesn't have much history.
Exactly.
Right.
So whereas with Nassau has history. So for me, for a person like me who likes that adventurous stuff, I'm going to want to go see what this was being done or what that's being done. How long has this been here? How long has that been here? Like what era this is in and stuff like that. So for a person like me, I wouldn't even want to go to the beach. I would want to go and visit the places that are historical for Nassau.
Yeah. And then you got some other passengers who would just want to come off and go on a beach and smoke a cigar and have a waitress serving them high-end drinks, and they don't really want to go to a local place if a high-end place is available. And that's why a lot of them went to Atlantis for that day, and they're still doing it every day. Atlantis still get, and because they want a high-end place to go to. And as we improve our port and our places people can go, we should just be happy that it's growing and it's getting more sophisticated.
Exactly, and I think it's going to be a plus. And then, but you have to realize too, like I think you mentioned it as well, that island or whatever that is that they're doing, that's going to be advertised on Royal Caribbean ships. So Carnival and Norwegian and Princess and whoever else, they're not going to have the privilege to go there unless they actually pay to go there, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think it's going to be available for other cruise ship passengers other than Royal Caribbean, if I'm not mistaken.
No, it's going to be available to even hotel guests who are on the island and they want to go there. Anybody can go. Anybody can catch the ferry and go there. Right?
Yes,
now they will have groups coming directly from the ship as well.
It's not going to be for free.
Oh no, it's not going to be for free for anybody, not even people on Royal Caribbean ship.
Exactly. So why is that not a good thing? I don't understand. Why is that not a good thing?
And I'll tell you why it's even better, because when they're going there from the ship, they're gonna bypass downtown and go straight to Paradise Island. But when they come back, they're gonna be dropped off to a location where they have to pass along downtown and through the port to get. So they still will have the opportunity to shop downtown if they want to, or go other places, because there's no time limit when they leave there to come back. If they have something to do now, so they will still do that.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's all optional, you know.
Yes, it is.
Well, I thank you so much for that call, my darling, and you continue to, when are you leaving to join your ship? Is it a matter of weeks or months?
Matter of weeks, my dear. Matter of weeks.
Oh, so you're leaving like next month sometime, or this month, before this month?
The 2nd of July, God willing.
And do you know the name of the ship that you're going to join?
Yes, I'm going on the Emerald Princess.
Emerald Princess.
Yes, sir.
That's Princess Cruises.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what area would you be doing your voyages?
So that one, I'm not too familiar with East and West and all this kind of stuff.
I mean, which part of the world?
Hawaii.
Okay.
And then I think for 2 months, and then going to Panama, and then the last 2 months are going to be Canada.
Okay, so based on what you're telling me, it sounds like you're going to be doing the northern Pacific Ocean, where Hawaii is located.
Yes.
And you'll probably go to the South Pacific as well, down by some of those the Cook Islands, some of those other islands.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Then you'll go through the Panama Canal eventually.
Yes.
And then you'll come up on the eastern side, up in Halifax and Canada area.
Yes, Victoria and all that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's the man. And you're going to be doing all that for free?
Of course.
And they can be paying you?
I'm getting paid to do it.
My goodness. Girl, live your life and enjoy. I kind of jealous of you, but I can't tell you that because you Well, thank you so much for calling, and feel free to call Maritime Matters at any time. Even when you're on the cruise ship, if you could get us no, you can't call us though. That's one thing.
No, can't call
Yeah. But you'll send me little messages, and I'll make sure that my dear listeners get your message while you're traveling around the world.
Indeed,
Okay.
indeed.
So thank you so much, and you take good care of yourself.
All right, sir.
Yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Boy, Herb, my boy Captain Brain, he caused me to stick a pin in what's going on here. But that's all right. Because he always round me and telling me, oh, you used to be running over all these things before you get to the meat of the matter. We ain't do that today, so we done to the meat of the matter and everything moving forward. So I'm about to move to a break. Boy, look like we only got one break today. That's a whole hour almost gone. We can move to our first break, and when we return, we'll finish our little small list, and then we still gonna do some of the things we normally do. We gotta talk with some people, but yeah, we got some good discussions here. And please, the number to call when we return is 8255. That's 326-8255. 55. You're listening to Maritime Matters. Thank you so much. We are now moving to our first break.
At One-on-One Pharmacy, our friendly staff is ready to serve you. Visit us today for all your prescription and over-the-counter needs at our East Street South or Charles Saunders Highway locations. We're open Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and from 9 to 4 on Sundays. In a rush? Send your refill scripts online at oneononepharmacy.com or ask about our convenient pickup service. One-on-One Pharmacy, providing personal health care with people at heart. At Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited, we offer first-class maritime security services throughout the Bahamas and the wider Caribbean. As experts in maritime security, we specialize in production of ISPS assessments and plans, verification audits, certified familiarization training, and port security consultancy, just to name a few. Our services also include provision of a security force to maintain all required ISPS facility security compliance. For all your maritime security needs, visit us today in Nassau at our East Street South location or in Freeport in the Kipling Building. Call us at 392-3515 or follow us on all social media platforms. Bahamas Maritime Connection, your leader in maritime security. Let's help you make the connection.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in, then I'll watch them roll away again. Yeah. I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Just sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. I left my home in Georgia, headed for the Frisco Bay. I've had nothing to live for, look like nothing's gonna come my way. So I'm just gonna sit on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away.
Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you back to Maritime Matters. Tonight's show is pretty hot. For those who are listening, the lines are open. It's the number to call will be 326-8255. Please feel free and chime in. We're discussing local excursion operators. They want the foreign charters to be taxed a little higher because they feel like they shouldn't be competing. And I agree with them to a certain extent. We can touch back on that in a little while. We're talking to the Marine Association. They're carrying out an impact analysis on the sector to determine, exactly how they, because, government has just decided they want to get in on some of those per foot charges at the docks and whatnot. And I think that, that's all well and good, because these yachts that come to do these areas are very lucrative owners, and a lot of times they can afford it. So they know they're visiting another country. Well, of course, you got to pay the piper, eh? RCI, they want to spend $50 million they got to spend to remove derelict homes. Those 3 or 4 properties they bought over PI to get the lease from the government to put their beach club. And so I don't know if this is part of the $120 million that they say the project is going to cost. Maybe it is. Or if it's an addition, then that project would be $170 million. So I assume as part of that half of the money is gonna be spent on clearing away things, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. But you gotta clear it away an environmentally friendly way. You gotta build back so that you could satisfy the environmental impact assessment, and you satisfy the environmental lobbyists, and you satisfy some of your neighbors. In this case, Atlantis. So they gotta do things right. So I'm not faulting nobody for trying to get things together the way they think it should be. Royal Caribbean answers the environmental questions, and they published that report on Friday, 89 page public consultation report. They released it on Friday. And they basically answered all the questions that came forth surrounding this project. And then we have, moving on to a competitor. Let me just say good night to my good Auntie May before I go too far and here. My girl, I know she's my number one fan. She always listens to Maritime Matters and all the rest of that goodness. So Auntie May, 91, Guyana 92, going strong as ever. You just keep rolling, my dear. You just keep rolling. You know me and you know how we go. That's two peas in one pod. I won't be like you when I grow up. So, Pearl Island, which is another beach day. They're going to be in direct competition with Royal Caribbean International, so RCI's Royal Beach Club. And this is what the owner of Pearl Island is saying, eh? They're saying what Captain Glenn Bain is saying. This is what the owner of, or the operator of Pearl Island is saying. They say the plan for the western end of Paradise Island has benefited greatly from RCI passengers. Pearl Island managing partner, Mr. Peter Redman, said he welcomes the project and that he expects RCI will only bring more visitors as a result of the beach club. So here it is, and not only RCI, because this beach club is not only going to be open to Royal Caribbean. This beach club is going to be open to everybody, including you and me, if you want to go over there and spend a couple dollars. You want to relax or you want to show off and play big time, then you go to RCI Beach Club as well and just enjoy the, what do you call it, the aesthetics of the setup of the place. And that's how you got to roll with that. So according to Mr. Redman, who is one of the managing partners of Pearl Island, he thinks that the amount of guests that he's been getting over the years from RCI is going to increase as a result of this beach club being put there. Because the destination itself, the destination of Nassau, when any cruise ship coming here, will be lifted a bit higher by having additional, that's why I say Carnival should find some place that they can reserve for high-end customers, right? Because this thing will be cheap. We know that it's going to be high-end. And all of these ships have high-end people who don't mind spending money for little tranquility and different aesthetics and they ain't too particular but going nowhere else around the island. They done been to countries over and over again. They cruise every year. So people like that just need something to attract them to want to come off the ship. And if they come off for that, then Mr. Redman and his Pearl Island may have an opportunity to be advertised, so they know, well, we got another place over here too, you could come to next trip. What they say? A rising tide floats all boats. So when things get better because the destination is a little upper-ended or got improved, right? Then everybody benefits. So that's what our good friend Mr. Redman from Pearl Island had to say. And then, of course, we always have naysayers. And it's good to have naysayers because sometimes naysayers cause us to do things a little more detailed and pay a little more attention to certain things. So we got my good friend, the former BNT, that's the Bahamas National Trust executive. He's saying that progress has been made based on the report that was released, the 89-page public consultation report that was released on Friday by RCI. he feels like, we're making some progress. I like some of the things they say. But this is far from over. What do you mean by far from over? That's Mr. Eric Carey, my good buddy. And I suppose what Mr. Carey is saying, to some extent, is the project ain't built yet. You still need certain approvals. So we can knock you with some more questions to make sure this can be done in an environmentally friendly way. And there's nothing wrong with that. Brother Carey, I am happy that you were there to make sure, keep the feet of the project managers and planners to the fire. Because that's what it's all about. Make sure they're doing it right. We got how many miles across the way? This port calls Morgan's Bluff. Morgan's Bluff can not only bring another destination within a destination in Nassau, it's going to bring another government-owned and operated port for cruise ships to visit in the Bahamas. Could you imagine what it would be like for any cruise ship, from any cruise ship company, to make an extra call on Morgan's Bluff? You see, like I told you, dear listener, about a week ago, or last week, or 2 weeks ago, there are only 2 government-owned. Because I think that NASA is only being leased, Government still own it. There are only 2 government-owned, well, 1 actually, because Grand Bahama Port Authority owns the one in Freeport. But these 2, although they are operated not by the government right now, and some people say, thank goodness, because we know how it was when the government was operating these things, We know how it was when taxis could go straight up to cruise ships, gangways, and pick up people, and we needed that PPP, that public-private partnership, to be in place so that we could restore order and have better enforcement without certain people running to the political influence to get what they want. That ain't happening no more. And we need to do that with plenty of things. But I said that to say, we have 2 ports in the Bahamas where any cruise ship, doesn't matter whether it's Carnival, whether it's RCI, or whether it's Disney or NCL, Norwegian Cruise Line, they can book their ships to visit these ports. And they're free to do what they want to do once they get in. They sell tours from on board, like all cruise ships do, and all the rest of that. But I'm saying we need more. The Bahamas is as large as the Eastern Caribbean. Do you know how many government-owned or government-regulated, well, let's say government-owned, cruise ship destinations there are in the Eastern Caribbean? You name the country and they have one. So we need to be like them. You name the island and they have one. Because we have potential for each of our developed island to have its own cruise ship dock. And in most cases, you could dock 2 ships at one time. And once we have those destinations in place, because you realize that the cruise ships have 7 destinations in the Bahamas, while the Bahamas government have, well, I'll call the Port Authority part of the government as well, because obviously they regulate the city of Freeport, have only 2. So we obviously need a couple more. And I would hasten to say that Morgan's Bluff is the lowest hanging fruit, where ships can go inside and actually berth. And, well, of course, North Andros will have their own history. They will have their own tour packages. And that is what we need. We need different locations because the crime rate is far lower. The harassment would be far less. And all the rest of that good stuff we wouldn't have to worry about. So why shouldn't we just go ahead and fix Morgan's Bluff to be the third cruise ship destination in the Bahamas that any cruise ship can book? And we could also do a PPP with that. But we ain't gonna do it where a company comes in and leasing out the thing from government. No, we could do it where we can hire a management company to come in. Government maintains control, similar to how we did the airport, eh? Government basically hiring them until such time as we have enough Bahamians to take over that management. And we could have a private company using Bahamians to manage those port facilities again, so that the government pundits of various administrations would not be able to go and override what's trying to be achieved as far as running that port properly. And we could start with Morgan's Bluff, and we could go down the list. Every single developed island, Abaco, Morgan's Bluff and Andros. We mightn't even need none in South Andros, but we could put one there too, right? We could expand Drigsel a little more, and we got room to do that. Almost anything could happen if you put your mind to it, you know. We would expand that some more, so that could now take at least one cruise ship. Where we go after that? Exuma. We go off Rocus Point somewhere. Wherever these land touching the ocean. Cat Island. You got a whole eastern side of the ocean. Well, Eleuthera got, I would say they got plenty. But we can still put one in North Eleuthera. You know, near the glass window bridge area. We could dredge out and build port. And you know what can happen when you do that? You now need pilots to bring in all these ships. You need tugboats in those areas. You need agents to deal with if they need people joining those ships in those areas, to make arrangement for getting them to and from the airport. You're going to have tours and so everything that generates revenue in Nassau Harbor can now generate revenue in those family islands. And you know how many people will return to their island because they know they have a viable job? You know how one cruise ship pier could cause an island, a furrowed or a family island, to become so developed overnight? One cruise ship dock. But do you think we have any plans to do it? Sadly, I say no. Do you think the government have a will and a desire to do it? I will hasten to say yes. Any government, well, any administration, because the government is continuous, eh? But whoever's in the chair would want to see this country more developed. They would want to see more money pouring in. They would want to see more people leaving Nassau and going back to the family islands. Why wouldn't they? I would, you would, they would. So let's start with Morgan's Bluff, and we will get Morgan's Bluff to be a destination of choice. We could do tours on how, anybody remember how we used to do the badging of water from Morgan's Bluff to Nassau Harbor, just to keep up with the demand for water in the city of Nassau before they were doing all this reverse osmosis stuff? They still have those wells. They still have those pumps. So somehow those things can now be maintained, protected, and you could be doing tours on how all this water used to be made available for those water barges when they get to Morgan's Bluff to be delivered to Nassau and you have history on what happened to some of those barges. They went in storms and they got bent up and sunk, and how you started off with small barge, and then you got bigger barges, and then you got actual ships that are basically water tankers, and it just kept moving on and on and on. And then how now you got the reverse osmosis systems where you turning salt water or seawater into fresh water for drinking purpose, and that's a tour in itself, right? We got crabs in North Andros. Now who could do a better tour than going crabbing? We got the Great Barrier Reef in North Andros. We got all the flats for what they call, what kind of fishing are this? I won't say bonefish fish. They call it fly fishing, right? My boy Prescott Smith been preaching from time immemorial. We have capacity to build that and make that. Do you know how many cruise ship passengers would like to leave that ship that morning and go fly fishing all day in the flats of Andros? We got red bays. We got all the sponging going on and still going on. Sponges are still there. That itself is a tour. So North Andros have a lot of history where they can do a lot of tours. You can arrange, well, Fresh Creek is a little ways away, but you, Ortec, may not have a problem with people coming and do tours of the Ortec base. Well, that might be a problem, but who knows? They may be able to incorporate some tours at Ortec base. But again, Morgan's Bluff will be a totally different destination than Nassau. Totally different destination than Freeport. Totally different destination from any cruise ship private island. And it will be an entangling with the people on the island. Because you ain't got to worry about the crime. You ain't got to worry about the harassment. We got friendly people on all islands. Those islands ain't no hustle and bustle like Nassau. You got the fellas with the jet skis will be there for those who want jet skis. Parasail boat will be there for those who want parasail boat. So all of the things that are happening on the private island can happen right there in Morgan's Bluff. But the government needs to take the first step. Government have the facility. They own it. They ain't got to buy that from nobody. Let's develop that. Let's get some Bahamians to invest their money just like we did in Prince George Wharf, which is now Nassau Cruise Port. We're waiting $150 million to come from that they say they want to start putting things in place, and then they needed another 160 million. So it's over 300 million now. Where do you think that money came from? That was raised right here from Bahamians. And plenty Bahamians got money turned away because they only wanted them to have so much. So the same thing can happen in Morgan's Bluff. We Bahamians got money. We can invest in that port. We can make that happen. And once we do that, we will have another destination of choice. And this one, in my opinion, will be better. Because you have the things like the crabs and the diving and the fishing and the sponging and the bone fishing and deep sea fishing, right? The ocean is right there. It's just so much potential. You can have people do a day away at Chubkey, because Chubkey is just across the ocean from Morgan's Bluff, eh? Half hour. Well, if you go on a real speed, boy, you've been in 20 minutes. And they could just relax in Chubkey, because Chubkey is also high end, eh? That'll be like the Royal Beach Club. Anyway, this is what I suggest and I recommend. Now, since we have no callers, and then people, please don't be shy. 326-8255. That's the number to call if you want in on this conversation. We are talking about cruise ships. Well, next week, I'll tell you now. Next week, we're gonna do international maritime feeds, and I have some cruise ship. They have some brand new cruise ships being built. We'll talk about them at length. We'll talk about the war in Ukraine, because that's a very hot topic subject. What else are we going to talk about next week? We're going to talk about some nuclear, how Russia want to get these nuclear ships and nuclear icebreakers, and because they want to now create a route to carry the fuel around the northern side, even in the wintertime, because they're going to be breaking ice and moving through. But they use the nuclear fleets. You know, there's a nuclear powered fleet. We will find out next week, right? So let's go back to our local excursion operators, because I think we done beat Morgan's Bluff bad enough, eh? We're going to get our government to do Morgan's Bluff. That's how we going to roll. So before we get back to this local excursion operator, I just want to big up my sponsor, One-on-One Pharmacy. They have sponsored the show from whence we came. They got 2 locations, one on East Street South and the other one on Charles Sanders Highway. They get a 3rd location, but of course that one no name One-on-One Pharmacy. The name of that one is Island Care Pharmacy. That one is in Freeport, in the heart of the city, just opposite the Regent Square, or opposite Scotia Bank, in that area. They got everything you want. They're a little small inside, but everything you need is there. Get your prescription sorted out. Get your little medication. If you just feel like going to buy one chocolate like me, go and buy yourself a chocolate. They got that too, potato chips. So that's Island Care Pharmacy in Freeport. And of course, in Nassau, you got 2 locations where you would have those pharmacies on East Street South and Charles Sanders Highway. That's One-on-One Pharmacy. And if you want to send your prescription online, you will just go and hit them up on oneononepharmacy.com. That's all one single case, all one word, oneononepharmacy.com. And you can put in your prescription so that by the time you reach the store or the pharmacy, everything right there packaged and ready for you. And don't talk to Joy, because Joy ain't easy. Joy is a big time pharmacist. That's my buddy. Every time I need something, I make sure I talk to Joy. So ladies and gentlemen, One-on-One Pharmacy. We are also sponsored by Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited. At Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited, we provide a full slate of ISPS security services. As far as ISPS training, ISPS audits, ISPS assessments and plans, ISPS consultancy, and all the rest of it. We are ISPS people. That's our neck of the woods. That's our niche, and we ain't changing that, right? So we talk about the local excursion operators asking the government to go up on the foreign charter taxes, eh? They will come here and charter, let them pay 2 or 3 times more than the local. Also, make them pay for business license. Also, make them get work permits for the people on board those vessels. Now, how do we view that? I'll tell you how I view that. As we're running out of time, and I gotta say hello to Annie Mae one more time before this 3 minutes run out, right? But because these people are foreign registered vessels, they're registered before they come here to do that tour, you know. We are getting money from each charter. We're getting 14% of the value of that charter. We don't want them to have business license, because if you give them business license, you're giving them a right to solicit locally. You're giving them a right to go in Atlantis Hotel, go in Bahamas, go anywhere in this country and say, we're providing charters for high-end people, and we don't want that. We don't want them to be able to operate domestically. That's why we only give them a permit. They get a foreign charter yacht permit. They don't get a registration, because we're not registering their boat. We don't want them to even believe they have a business license to operate locally, because they can't. They're not supposed to have that, right? Work permits, in other words, for the people who working on board the vessels. They don't need work permits because that people come from outside on the boat and they ain't coming to Bahamas to work. You give them a work permit, next thing you know, they won't work locally. They won't work on any boat they see and all the rest of it. We're not dealing with work permits for foreign charter yachts. We're not dealing with business license for foreign charter yachts because that defeats the whole idea of keeping them limited. That's where we go with that, Mr. Local Excursion Operators. So that's my 2 cents. I trust you all to get that information. Feel free to call me next lap. Because, we got a call on the line. That's line 1 light up. Good night, caller. You have reached Maritime Matters. Thank you very much, sir. How are you?
Yes, I'm okay. I mean, I do listen to you all the time, but you hold on firm, and I like how, I mean, like, the government listening to some of the things you're saying is really good, man, you know?
I hope they are, my friend. I'm
what you're saying, man. Trust me, yeah? Because I mean, like...
Yeah, you can see little changes happening, so
yeah.
Even if they ain't listening, I like to see them doing the changes.
Yeah, they can be doing that. It's with Mr. Beard. I'm passed by the cruise port, I mean, the new facility, the cruise port, right?
Yes, sir.
And that stage they got there, I say, boy, my mind going right on you. I say, boy, I can just imagine see all the Mayday.
Yeah, hey, hello.
Another quote, someone hits me, huh?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can never lie, right? I mean, like, that stage, I mean, it's basic, but you know what? That's a good venue for, they're talking about something new. I ain't talking about this old thing we've been scaring for 50 years and we'll push it for the next 50. We need something new on that stage.
Yes.
And I got that, you know.
Yeah, man, you always have it, you know, you're the type of person they need on the stage, eh?
No, but I don't see me on that stage and thinking, you know, I don't see the tourists and all them.
Yeah.
Hey, why up? Because, you know what, it's something fresh and new for the world.
Indeed.
Cool like that.
Yeah, man,
huh?
but...
Because, I mean, like, you know, we need to give Bahamians a chance. 50 years of independence coming up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, honestly, right? I know what we're celebrating, but I say they're celebrating women. But it's a difference for Bahamians in general, because guess what?
Yeah.
50 years, right? I mean, respect to women, right? But for 50 years, right? At the end of 50, he's celebrating women. What happened to the men? What happened to everybody else? There's something wrong with that.
No, but I think...
Because you know what? It's like you get rid of half of your society and you celebrating half. You can't celebrate half and you celebrating. What that means?
Man, but a minute, I want you to call the show before it over next week. See the show done over, you know, me and you just talking and they hearing us, but...
I call you late?
Yeah, you called there late.
I just get up and wait, man.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I appreciate the call, man. You know, I haven't heard your voice for a little while.
Yeah, man, I'm going to call you next week early.
Yeah, call early enough, so, because I like that topic you want with the 50 years, man. We got a lot to talk about that.
Man, I tell you, the government, I mean, honestly, right? Who concocted that? I mean, women, all of us are one people, and one better than the other. And how you can celebrate one and they celebrating the other. So that's a death.
Yeah, no, I think they're celebrating both, you know, because they starting to say now, the men, they some of the things we couldn't do.
Women, posters all over the place with women on it, you know, I can see one day 50 years.
Yeah.
There's more than women in this country who really achieve and they displace what it is, you know. And it's a death because guess what? It should be where we get, I mean, it should be like a balancing, because you look at all these youth things, males especially, right? Going through all these things, feeling identity crisis or even disabled, not even human enough to be in society to operate properly. But you know what? The opportunities for men, the opportunities for boys, it's all about the empowerment and enfranchisement of women.
Yeah.
And then talking about this is nonsense.
But you know, over the next 50 years, we got to fix some things. But over this past 50 years, you know, I'm 61 now, so I can tell you, I was around when we first got independent. In fact, I was on the parade. I was in grade 6, so we were doing. They need to do some other things, but I was around from back then, and I can tell you the difference in our country, especially in Nassau, from back then to now, is vast. It's vast. We've come a long way, my brother. We have come a long way.
I mean, I know the show over, right? But I ain't telling you no lie, right? It's a disgrace for the mere fact. I mean, like,
even me, right? See, I got so much to offer back, and you know what? I don't copy nothing. I'm original all over. Remember what they come in? This is nonsense if we go to this country.
Yeah, but we got to bring that back.
What they had in the past and different. What about what is in our minds? They have respect for us as humans.
Yeah, we lost out big time with Bahamianism. We got to bring all that back.
Yeah, man, because I mean, what else we got as a people?
Yeah,
put
that's
down
us.
the politics, put down the religion, and let's come together as a people. Put down the gender and like this separation of a family, man against woman. Woman feel like they less than. All of us are the same.
Yes, my
You know
brother.
better than nobody else. No one wants to know. You know what? At the end of the day, the only place we could be together in peace is in the graveyard, resting in peace. That's it.
Well,
we should be ashamed of ourselves as human, right?
I agree. You ain't gonna get no pushback from me on that. But with that, we gotta close out.
We live in a thing. We could communicate and everything, but we do. We pass our time watching TV, looking at screen in reality, and our face we go about a fantasy. Huh?
Yes,
Nonsense, right? And at the end of the day, what they celebrate, woman. Let me say something. I'm sorry, sir, right? But let me say something, yeah? The government needs to basically put a cap on women right now because they're destroying themselves.
Okay, well, with that,
taking all the foolishness and bleaching up and all kinds of things. Like, who pay for that?
yes, sir. With that, we fresh out of time, my brother. But I can look forward to that call next week.
Yeah, man.
Really, okay? So continue to do well, and we'll keep in touch. Take care of yourself. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, that's my good friend, Brother Simonette, musician extraordinaire. I can tell you, man, I got some of his music. I listen to it every now and then, and I always feel good when I listen to his music. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we are fresh out of time. I say to you again, Maritime Matters, out.